All yours, buddy.
All righty. So let's start off with a bang, because what a better prospect to start off with than with the most polarizing prospect in this year's draft, which is the consensus by whoever you talk to. This player, Ivan Ryabkin, is wildly over the boards. He's been falling in most recent draft boards that I've seen, falling a lot actually. And but let's start with the tail of the tape here. As Elite Prospect says, Ryabkin is a violent center who can thread a needle and hammer a puck. His best elements are shooting, passing, and hitting. What more do you want? One-timers from the flank, quick release wristers, and skill for in-tight decisions are his top scoring tools, and he has the handling skill to create space for his shot off the rush. Ryabkin is a player that honestly was compared positively with both Matvei Michkov, and with Ivan Demidov of the last two drafts. I'd say he's a bit of a blend of the two, actually. He doesn't quite have the same maybe superstar potential that those two do, but he definitely has a good mix of the attributes that make them that make those players obviously the players that they are. And he can really do it all. It's above average in terms of the shooting, passing, and hitting. He is an incredibly violent player, and some of the tape that I've watched him, he's a maniac out there. I watched one where there's a goalie who froze the puck, and he was surrounded by all five of his opponents and the goaltender. And even like somewhat after the whistle, he is still jamming away at the goaltender's pads, trying to spear the puck into the net, surrounded by all six of his opponents. Absolute maniac out there. And of course, all six tried to, mob him, including the goaltender. It was a really great thing to watch here. So he is an agitator. He is a pest. He gets under the opponent's skin. And and he's a great skater. His shot and passing are both NHL quality. I'd say both actually above NHL average. And so why is he falling so much in draft boards? Well, there is a reason. If you want to flip over to the attributes that I put down here, we talked about his pros. Now, obviously, some of the issues here is his attitude and work ethic have been questioned. Maybe not so much his work ethic, but definitely his attitude, both on and off the ice. He doesn't really drive the pace of play that some other scouts want to see, at least according to them. Honestly, in my view of the tape, maybe this is just my ignorance of being the most amateur of amateur scouts, but it didn't look like he was all that off pace to me. He can skate. He's got speed. He's got a decent amount of speed. But definitely what I did see is that he chases hits and he ends up in the penalty box a lot, which means he will fit right into the bunch of jerks Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah, so
and even with a issue like that, and we've kind of seen Svechnikov clean it up a whole lot this season, I'd rather draft a player that you have to rein in a little bit than you have to get more out of. So yes, that's something that I think can be fixed, because it's like let's say we do draft this kid and he eventually makes it, and Svechnikov's still with the Hurricanes and everything, and he's going to be like, hey, clean that up. He's like, how do you know? Well, you see. And then it's like, oh, okay, you've actually literally had this same exact issue where you're trying to toe that line of competitiveness, but not crossing the line and constantly having your team on the penalty kill. So that it's definitely a con, but it's less of a con than like, hey, let's get it into gear here. And the Canes do lack some physicality. That's no secret. Yeah. So yeah. I think those other things could be worked with in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's definitely a better problem to have, that you have to pare his energy back than rather push it forward. And but nevertheless, it is a problem. He chases hits. Sometimes that gets him out of position, and he often winds up in the penalty box as a result. And something that's been said, this is kind of just whispers because you can't really see this by watching tape, but that he is a rather arrogant man, a rather arrogant young man, which honestly is not the worst thing to have in a professional athlete, but it is something that, obviously the coaching staff will have to deal with. He is apparently a difficult player to coach. And so that would test the development abilities of any organization that takes him. And I think the Hurricanes have the development chops to do it. And so I would not be at all upset if the Hurricanes selected him at 29th. Honestly, I think 29th is far too low for him. I know he's been falling. Some people even have him down into like the second round, around pick 50, which to me is utterly insane. This guy is a top 10 talent. Like if you're going on skill alone, he is a top 10 pick. And it's honestly those other things, while they are concerns, they don't, to me, they don't, that they should dock him maybe about 10 slots, not 40. He should go in the top 20 for me. And that's where I would take him. If I was putting together a mock draft, I would probably put him around 19th or 20th. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, his average around that I've seen in the recent drafts is late first, early second. And so around the pick, 25 to 35. And if he's there, and maybe our boy Mason West is not available, or if the Hurricanes want to trade back and still select him, which would take balls of steel to do. I don't know how Darren York does that. We'll get into, maybe we can get into that later. Mm-hmm. But Ivan Ryabkin at pick 29 would be a fantastic pick in my opinion. And the NHL comparable, he reminds me a lot of Claude Giroux, especially in his prime, when Claude Giroux was definitely an agitator. He was good in the circle. He checked hard and had above average NHL quality in his passing and shooting. Defensively, Ryabkin's going to need some work. Obviously, most young players do. But the fact that he checks so hard, both on the forecheck and the back check, to me is definitely a good quality to have, especially in a center.
Yeah, and
what are your thoughts there, Brandon?
If he works that hard in the 200-foot aspect of things, and if he forechecks and back checks as well as you're saying that he does, I think a lot of those issues as far as the attitude and work ethic, those are going to become eventual non-factors. If he's willing to work that hard on the ice, I'm pretty sure there's some other things that can be worked out. Rod's an amazing coach. Like, the system has some questionable things when it comes to Rod. However, his ability to coach players on an individual level and get the most out of them and get them to clean up aspects of their game that maybe they're not doing correctly, he's incredibly good at that. He truly is a player's coach in every way. So Rod definitely could take someone like this and mold him into a player who stays calm in those situations after the whistle when maybe he wasn't before. Don't chase the hit so much. Use your physicality, but don't use it to your detriment and all that type of stuff. It sounds to me like he can do that. And if he's a comparable to Claude Giroux, the way I always heard people describe him even before he was drafted, he's a first-line center skill with a third-line center attitude. And he always combined those things together. It's like he never shuts up. All he does is chirp people. He throws hits. He pisses you off. And he's just incredibly hard to play against. And even when he's not scoring a whole bunch, he's out there shutting people down, drawing penalties, and all kinds of other stuff. So if this kid has that type of skill set, I would gladly welcome him onto the Canes. So we got some stats here for him too. Mm-hmm. If you want to elaborate on that at all.
Sure. Yeah. So he started the year in Russia, and part of the thing that also hurt his draft stock was that people were expecting him. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. He actually beat Michkov in the junior record, and the MHL is what it's called there in the Russian junior league. He actually beat Michkov's record of points. But this year, starting in Russia, did not go according to plan. You can see there, time spent in juniors didn't really dominate. You want to see better than that in junior hockey. And the VHL didn't do that much. He had a cup of coffee in the KHL too. And again, a lot of this was supposedly the friction between him and the coaching staff and the organization that he was in with Dynamo. And he did not see eye to eye with that coaching staff. And so he said, forget you guys, I'm going to North America. And he joined the Muskegon Lumberjacks in the USHL. So it's actually, honestly, he's already here. He's already in North America. So that's kind of a box already checked. And he did very, very well here. He found his game again. Maybe the coaching staff did a better job, addressing his personality quirks. But he became quite the scorer. He was known a bit more for his playmaking. But as you can see there, the stat line, 19 goals, 11 assists for 30 points in 27 USHL games, and he did well in the playoffs as well. Still racked up a lot of penalty minutes though, so that's obviously he's still got the chasing hits problem that he'll need to iron out and know when. It's not the fact that he's got it is extremely encouraging. It just needs to know when to properly employ it. That he needs some work on. But honestly, the passing, the shooting, the skating, all above average NHL quality.
Yeah, and another thing that I like here. This stat line of having 19 goals and 11 assists, I cannot tell you the last time, except for, honestly, I couldn't tell you who. When was the last time the Hurricanes has had an offense first center? Someone who kind of executes. I'm not saying someone as good as Austin Matthews, but someone who approaches the game like he does. Like someone who's like, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself. I'm going to drive the middle of the ice myself. I'm going to put the puck in the net myself. If we can draft a guy like
Eric Cole's a winger, though. That attitude. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, not a center.
Yeah, see, like I'm thinking about an offense first center that just kind of takes over the play. If this kid's got that ability, that's another thing the Hurricanes really need to take into consideration when potentially drafting him, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so again, like some scouts said, his driving play and pace was questionable. I didn't. And the tape I watched, it looked fine to me. Looked like he could skate around. He looked like he still uses his teammates. Maybe on the power play, he needs to be a little bit more proactive rather than reactive. But again, I think those things can come with a little bit of time. And so if they were going to take him, I'd say his development track, maybe another year in the USHL, and then he can turn pro and probably play in Chicago for a season. And Chicago, maybe Greensboro, but I think he could probably make the leap to Chicago fairly quickly. And then after that, I think he could probably crack an NHL roster.
All righty. Anything else on Ivan here?
I think that's it. Again, I think it'd be criminal if he goes past pick 30. Mm-hmm. But I don't. I'll leave that kind of knowledge up to Darren York. If he decides to go with someone else, I'll take his word for it. But for my money, if he's available at 29th and Mason West isn't there, then Ivan Ryabkin is definitely the next best pick for me.
All righty. Well, while we're at it, we're going to get some comments real quick, and then we'll get on to the next. We'll get on to the next prospect here. So, in response to the last time the Hurricanes had an offensively minded center, Caniac Sessions, my good friend Griff, says Eric Stahl. I don't think of Eric Stahl personally as a pure offense first center.
Maybe at the beginning. At the beginning of his career,
at the beginning. Yeah. And I think he developed the other two-way aspects of his game from there, because I do remember the first couple of seasons, he was very selfish and sometimes to his detriment.
Mm-hmm. It's still like the last player to get 100 points in a season.
Yeah, we really need that in the future. Cavery says, I just want to get a center with potential to replace Aho. Our center draft has been lacking since. That's true. Even though Jarvis was drafted as a center, Natchez was drafted as a center. It's just a couple of guys just haven't panned out at that position. I think Jarvis, this is a discussion for another day, obviously. I think Jarvis can do it. I know he's a little small, but he's got everything else in his toolkit to do it. Everything that concerned Rod with putting Natchez at center doesn't apply to Jarvis.
That's true.
Tony D says, what's up? No, it's not the one you're thinking of, everybody. Even though I would absolutely, if he did watch this show, I was like,
that'd be great.
That's my boy. Y'all know.
I've had a few. I've gone back and forth with him on some baseball takes that were a little spicy.
Oh yeah, it's like I remember when I made that X that one time, be like, "Hey, do you want to come on my show?" And I'm like, "Wait, I've been dogging Brady Shea, and I hate the Phillies. He's not coming on here." Av Clark says, "I hope we get a stud of a center. It doesn't have to be great out the door, but molded." Yes, and that's the guys we're profiling today fit that perfectly.
That's the thing, is that especially in this draft, there are so many centers. We should take at least two, but there are so many really, really good center icemen in this draft. Again, and no crazy. Another thing about this draft, there's no crazy generational talent. There's no Gavin McKenna, who's going to be picked next year, number 1 overall, guaranteed. There's obviously no McDavid, not even Celebrini or Demidov or Michkov or anyone like that. Those are wingers. But there's no generational player in this draft, but there's still a lot of good talent that'll have a lot of people who have very long careers.
Mm.